At 65, most people are thinking about retirement or spending time with grandkids. But Michael Davis, a retired high school math teacher, was about to embark on something far more unpredictable: a blind date. Little did he know that what seemed like a simple attempt at connection would unravel into a whirlwind of surprises that no one could have predicted. This is the story of his unexpected and bewildering foray into the world of dating in later life. Prepare to be amazed by what he discovered about love, life, and himself. If you are not subscribed, subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. The decision to reconnect. Michael's life after retirement had been peaceful, yet marked by solitude. After dedicating over 30 years to teaching high school students, he found himself 5 years into retirement, living alone in a 2-bedroom condo in sunny Florida. His only daughter, Sarah, resided far away in New York, and his wife had passed away 3 years earlier. Although his days were filled with gardening, reading, and volunteering at the local library, Michael began to feel a sense of emptiness creeping in. His life, while calm and structured, lacked meaningful companionship. He didn't necessarily desire a second marriage, but he longed for someone to share the simple, quiet moments with, someone to converse with over morning coffee or enjoy an afternoon walk. Despite the fulfillment he found in his hobbies, Michael recognized a deep need for connection. The routines he had once enjoyed seemed insufficient as the years went by, and he found himself increasingly yearning for a presence in his life that could offer more than just fleeting interactions. One afternoon, as Michael sat on his porch enjoying the warm Florida sun, his neighbor Linda, who was active in organizing community events, struck up a conversation with him. She had been talking to Christine, a retired nurse who lived just a few doors down. Linda mentioned that Christine, too, had expressed an interest in finding companionship. After hearing Linda's suggestion, Michael felt a spark of curiosity. The idea of meeting someone new stirred up old feelings of excitement and nervousness, emotions he hadn't experienced in years. He was unsure what to expect, but knew he was ready to step outside his comfort zone. It was a leap into the unknown, but one that Michael felt he was ready to take, hoping to fill the void that had quietly expanded within him. The anticipation. As the day of the meeting drew nearer, Michael found himself feeling a level of nervousness he hadn't anticipated. Since his wife's passing, he hadn't ventured into the world of dating. The thought of meeting a woman, engaging in conversation, and potentially forming a connection seemed both exciting and overwhelming. Even choosing the right clothes felt like a monumental task. After digging through his closet twice, he finally settled on a crisp white shirt and a blazer, attire he hadn't worn in years. On the morning of the meeting, Michael arrived at the cafe well ahead of time, ordered a cappuccino, and found a quiet table to sit at. He could feel a mix of anticipation and apprehension building within him as he waited for Christine to arrive. When she finally walked in, Christine exuded a confident presence. She wore a light blue blouse and a set of simple earrings, and greeted him with a warm, genuine smile that immediately put Michael at ease. Their initial conversation flowed effortlessly as they exchanged pleasantries. They shared stories about their careers, Christine as a nurse and Michael as a teacher, and talked about their lives after retirement. Michael spoke fondly of his daughter, Sarah, and his passion for gardening, while Christine talked about her son, who had moved to Chicago, and her love for cooking. They quickly found common ground, bonding over their shared appreciation for life's quieter moments and the challenges that came with adjusting to life after decades of structured work. However, as the conversation progressed, a subtle shift occurred. Christine's tone became more serious, and the easygoing atmosphere seemed to change. She leaned forward, locking eyes with Michael, and began to speak more directly. She told him that she had a few expectations regarding any potential relationship. Michael caught off guard, listened intently, unsure of where the conversation would go next. The demands. Christine's first demand, while unconventional, initially didn't seem entirely unreasonable to Michael. She suggested a 6-month trial period of living together, a proposal that gave the impression of taking things slow, offering them both the chance to better understand each other and see if they were truly compatible. Michael, still processing the idea of such a commitment, didn't immediately reject it. After all, a trial period seemed like a practical way to test the waters before fully committing to a relationship. But then Christine added a twist that left Michael speechless. She explained that, if they were to move forward with this arrangement, Michael would need to deposit $20,000 into a shared account. This deposit, she explained, was a commitment deposit, a financial guarantee that would demonstrate his seriousness about the relationship. If the trial period ended early, she would refund a portion of the deposit, prorated to reflect the time they had spent living together. At first, Michael struggled to process her words. A financial deposit for a relationship? It seemed completely out of place, as though trust and sincerity could be measured in dollar amounts. He felt a jarring disconnect between what had been a warm and engaging conversation and this unexpected request that suddenly transformed everything into a transactional agreement. Was Christine trying to protect herself financially? Perhaps she had been hurt in the past and now sought security. Michael tried to empathize with her, but the more he thought about it, the more unsettling her demand became. To him, relationships at this stage of life were meant to be about companionship, shared experiences, and mutual respect, not about who could offer financial guarantees. What Christine had proposed felt less like a personal connection and more like a business contract. It made Michael uncomfortable, as though the foundation of a potential relationship was being built on something entirely material, rather than emotional or heartfelt. The whole thing began to feel less about the genuine potential for companionship and more like a deal that needed to be negotiated. More conditions, the dream trip and financial control. Christine continued outlining her demands, each one more unsettling than the last, and with every word, Michael's discomfort deepened. Her next condition revolved around a dream she had harbored for years, a month-long trip to Hawaii. Christine had always envisioned the islands as a symbol of beauty, tranquility, and romance, and now she wanted to make it a reality. However, what began as a simple vacation idea quickly morphed into an expectation that Michael would fund the entire trip. She promised to take care of the arrangements, from booking flights to securing accommodations, and even suggested having a professional photo shoot to capture their special experience. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. At first, Michael appreciated Christine's enthusiasm and understood her desire for such a trip. He recognized that everyone had dreams, and he didn't want to discourage her. But as she continued, the situation began to feel increasingly unbalanced. A month-long trip to Hawaii was not a small expense, and Michael felt uneasy about the financial burden she was placing on him. More troubling, though, was the timing. He hadn't even known Christine for an entire afternoon, and now she was asking him to fund an extravagant vacation that felt more like a test of commitment than a shared adventure. The pressure to provide such an elaborate gift felt suffocating, and Michael couldn't help but wonder why relationships, especially at this stage in life, should revolve around grand gestures and financial expenditures, rather than simple joys and genuine connection. Christine's third demand was even more troubling. She wanted full control over their household finances if they decided to marry. She would take charge of managing all of Michael's retirement income and give him a small allowance for personal expenses. If he overspent, he would need to compensate by taking on extra household chores, like cooking or cleaning. The idea of handing over control of his financial security to someone he had just met left Michael speechless. It felt infantilizing and controlling. To him, a relationship should be a partnership based on mutual respect and shared responsibility, not one person exerting dominance over the other's financial freedom. Finally, Christine introduced her fourth and final demand. Even if they moved in together or married, she insisted they maintain separate bedrooms. After years of living alone following her divorce, Christine had grown accustomed to her own space. Sharing a room, she argued, would disrupt her sleep and make her feel crowded. She was adamant that this condition was non-negotiable. At this point, Michael's patience was wearing thin. While he could understand the desire for personal space, the rigid, transactional nature of all of Christine's demands was overwhelming. It seemed as though she was constructing a relationship based solely on her own needs, with little to no consideration for how Michael might feel or what he wanted. What had started as a hopeful opportunity for companionship had quickly become something far more controlling and one-sided. Michael began to question whether he was truly ready to embark on a relationship that felt so transactional and lacking in the mutual understanding and respect he valued. The decision. By the time Christine had finished outlining her 4 conditions, Michael felt an overwhelming sense of disconnect. What had started as an innocent and hopeful attempt to find companionship had turned into a series of demands that left him feeling more like a business partner than a potential life partner. When he first agreed to meet Christine, Michael had hoped to find someone with whom he could share the simple pleasures of life in his golden years. Someone to enjoy quiet moments with, to share stories, and perhaps build something meaningful together. Instead, he was confronted with a set of expectations that were far from what he had envisioned. As Christine spoke, Michael realized that her vision for a relationship was drastically different from his own. She seemed to see it as a series of transactions, each one designed to fulfill her desires and secure her financial future. Michael, on the other hand, wanted something rooted in mutual respect, trust, and shared values. He was looking for a genuine connection, not a financial arrangement or a set of rigid demands. It became clear that what Christine proposed wasn't aligned with his hopes for companionship at this stage in his life. With a heavy heart, Michael politely explained that he didn't think he could meet her expectations. It was a difficult decision, but at that moment, he knew it was the right one for him. Christine's response was calm, though she appeared slightly surprised by his rejection. Michael quickly wrapped up the conversation and left the cafe, his mind swirling with a mix of emotions. There was a sense of relief in standing by his values and walking away from a situation that felt wrong for him. Yet, at the same time, he couldn't shake the feeling of disappointment. He had hoped for a connection that might have grown into something beautiful, but instead, he was faced with an experience that underscored just how far removed his expectations were from Christine's. In the end, Michael knew he had made the right choice, but it didn't lessen the sting of realizing how differently they viewed relationships. The reflection. Later that afternoon, as Michael sat on his porch sipping tea, he found himself reflecting on the conversation with Christine. The warmth of the tea in his hands matched the sense of clarity that began to settle over him. He realized that, in his search for companionship, he didn't need to compromise his values or his peace of mind. Michael understood now that any future relationship he pursued would need to be grounded in trust, mutual respect, and shared values, not in rigid demands or financial obligations. The encounter had shown him that relationships, especially at this stage in life, should not feel transactional or forced. The experience with Christine left Michael with a renewed sense of what truly mattered in companionship. He understood that genuine connections are built on understanding, respect, and shared experiences, not on trying to fulfill a checklist of conditions or expectations. As he moved forward in life, Michael made a promise to himself. He would never settle for less than what brought him peace, happiness, and a sense of authenticity. In the days that followed, Michael's thoughts turned to others who might be navigating relationships later in life. His advice, shaped by his recent experience, was simple but profound. Trust your instincts, know your worth, and never settle for anything that doesn't bring you true happiness. Relationships should add value to your life, not complicate it with unnecessary demands. Sometimes, the best decision is to walk away from a situation that doesn't align with your vision of love and connection. For Michael, that was the ultimate lesson. That love and companionship, in their truest form, are about shared understanding and respect, not about meeting expectations that don't reflect who you are or what you need. As we wrap up Michael's story, let's take a moment to reflect on the lessons we've learned. Relationships, especially later in life, should be built on trust, mutual respect, and shared values, not on rigid demands or financial obligations. Michael's journey reminds us that we should never compromise our values in the search for companionship. Genuine connections are about understanding, respect, and the peace that comes from being true to ourselves. Now, I want to hear from you. What have you learned so far from Michael's experience? What's one thing that resonated with you that you'll bring into your own life? Drop your thoughts in the comments below this video. If you enjoyed this video, please leave your comment, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more meaningful content. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.